left, and this could be a touchdown for Mike Haynes. Haynes at the 50, and he's going to go all the way. 96 yards. Kramer uses play action, going long, and it is caught for a touchdown. What a remarkable catch by Leo Lewis. Tip ball, touchdown, Minnesota. And a big rush is on. He lets it go. Tony Hill, 20. He's in. Touchdown, Tony Hill.
Brought to you by Old Spice Fragrance, the unmistakably masculine scent. Sponsors of the Old Spice NFL Rookie of the Year program. Marcus Allen remembers his beginnings as a quarterback at Lincoln High School.
Regardless of what sport, I was born to do something out there, whether it happened to be on the football field, the baseball field, the basketball court. I was born to play sports, I guess. I was a quarterback and I was a safety. I never really wanted to play quarterback. I never made a distinction as a thrower or anything like that. I had dropped back to pass quite a bit, and I couldn't see if anybody was open, so I took off. You know, when these kids look at me in awe, I don't know why. I just see myself as a regular guy. It's a good feeling, but you really just try to tell them whatever you want to do, you can accomplish with hard work, and I'm a product, a testament to that, I guess.
This footage a couple of weeks ago at Arrowhead Stadium. Watch the ever-genteel Greg Townsend of the Raiders exchanging pleasantries with Mark Addix of the Chiefs. And as you know, immediately after that game, several Raiders were fined for their parts in the Donnybrook, and Greg Townsend was initially suspended for last week's game by Commissioner Rozelle. The Raiders protested, said there was additional footage that might clear Townsend. The commissioner reviewed that and then sustained the decision. So Greg Townsend has been suspended, and he will not play today at the Orange Bowl when the Raiders take on the Dolphins. But, says Townsend, what's going on here? He claims, in the words of Billy Joel, he's an innocent man, and Commissioner Rozelle simply has it in for him and his pleasant teammates. Here's Greg.
My actions just was a normal procedure for me, and there's no way I was out to do anything intentional in that game, to hurt anybody or nothing like that. So therefore, I think a lot of things was done in actions of just Pete don't like the Raiders.
I guess there's some members of the Kansas City Chiefs who aren't too fond of them either, Ahmad.
You know, Bob, over the years, the Raiders have always had overly aggressive players. They weren't dirty players. They had players like Jack Tatum, Lyle Alzado, George Atkinson, and they were all overly aggressive. Now, they always seemed to play as if their opponent somehow had insulted their parents or something, because when they tackle you, they swing you around, they throw you down, they pull your shirt all out of your pants, they try to embarrass you.
But that's not dirty.
But that's not dirty at all. But there's a couple things you got to always remember about the Raiders. One, they always are going to try to intimidate you, and two, when the pressure's on, they always respond.
The Raiders have dominated pro football for the past 3 decades. With wins in 3 Super Bowls, they've set the standard for excellence. Boasting hasn't been their thing, but this year, they have a video.
Wilson, Rulon Jones coming open receiver. Down with the ball, down to the 11-yard line, a free ball. Broncos have the football. You wear the silver, you wear the black, you better listen to what we say. Darrell Green intercepts, and Washington celebrates. You wear the silver, you wear the black, don't get in our way.
Now, Marcus, the Chicago Bears do a video, they go right to the Super Bowl and win it. You guys do a video and you start the season 0-3. Embarrassed?
Yeah, it was pretty embarrassing. At that point, we had to get the videos away.
It wasn't a bad video. You guys just should have won some games.
It was pretty good, wasn't it? No. I wanted to take myself off that video before we even started the season. Oh, well, it was fun to do. It was embarrassing.
After After their dismal start, the Raiders found that their backs were against the wall. But in true Raider fashion, they fought their way back. The record now stands at 3-3.
You just have to believe in yourselves, and a lot of it has to do with tradition. Traditionally, the Raiders have been able to fight themselves out of a hole and come back. Last year, we were counted out early after 3 games, and we came back and won 12 and won our division. We just have to believe in that.
A man they've believed in all along is quarterback Jim Plunkett. With injuries to starting quarterback Mark Wilson and league MVP Marcus Allen, Plunkett once again has been the miracle man.
I expect to do well. I don't have the butterflies or jitteriness that a younger player might have. It's my job. I go out there and I do what I'm expected of, and that's not a problem for me. As I said, when I was younger, maybe I'd get nervous, or some younger players might, but for me, it's not that big a deal.
Wear the silver, we wear the black, don't get in our way. We wear the silver, we wear the black, you better listen to what we say.
Everything has changed now. You guys have won the last 3 weeks, and it looks like you guys are getting it back together.
You can't count the Raiders out of mine. We started slow in the past, but we've come on strong in the end.
Well, what about all the talk about Denver and Seattle winning the AFC West?
What are you trying to say? We're conceding?
Well, no, I guess I'm just trying to ask you.
As history has proven, never count the Raiders out.
And I don't think anybody has counted the Raiders out. But as far as that dirty player rap, the Raiders make the most out of their dirty player rap because it intimidates their opponents. Now, my first time playing against them, I made the mistake of arriving at the stadium the same time as their bus. And about 5 or 6 guys got off the bus, and I was in shock. They had on black leather coats, gold chains, dark glasses, and they all looked like they had just woken up. As a matter of fact, they all looked as if they had just escaped from some state prison. Now, as I looked closer, I realized that these guys were just the coaches. And it was at that point that I started to realize what it was like to be intimidated. And it happened again, too. One night before we were playing the Raiders, a bunch of us were sitting around laughing, mostly about the Raiders, when all of a sudden in walked Jack Tatum. Now, when he walked in, the room went totally silent. And Jack on a leather coat, he had the gold chains and the dark glasses. Now, we all can't figure out why this man has on these dark glasses, because it's 11:30 at night, but this is Jack Tatum, and no one dared ask him. Now, when he gets up to leave, he walks over to the door, and he opens up the door, and it's the closet. And he walks all the way into the closet, and no one laughed. As a matter of fact, as he walked back out of the closet and out of the door, still nobody laughed. Now, this is a true measure of respect, because we knew that if we laughed at Jack Tatum the next day, he might tear your head off right in front of the referee. Now, we waited in that room in silence for about 30 minutes till we were sure that he was in his car on the freeway and totally out of earshot before we laughed. And then we didn't laugh very loud. Now, that's Raider intimidation.
And, ladies and gentlemen, the Ahmad Rashad Show will continue with a word from Frank DeFord when we come back.
Today, from the Orange Bowl, it's the Los Angeles Raiders versus the Miami Dolphins. Brought to you by Bud Light. Everything else is just a light. By Mercury, the shape you want to be in. And by Harris Corporation and their Lanier Business Products divisions. Lanier, we're easy to use.
Rain and wind hitting the Miami Orange Bowl on this Sunday afternoon. That'll keep some of the sellout crowd of 75,000 plus away as the Dolphins host the Los Angeles Raiders. Hello, everyone. Dick Enberg with Merlin Olson. These are two very proud teams, and yet they start terribly here in 1986. 0-3 beginning for the Raiders. Don Shula's worst ever start, 1-4 for Miami. Now weather and how it will impact the game. The Dolphins always tough at home. They've lost only 4 times in the last 5.5 years here in Miami.
But, Dick, the Dolphins have never matched up well against the Raiders. In fact, the Raiders own a 14-3-1 advantage and have won the last 5 matchups straight against the Dolphins.
Let's talk about the weather and how it will impact the #1 offensive team in the NFL, the Dolphins.
Well, a vast majority of their yardage has come through the air, and the thing that hurts the passing game is wind. We're going to have plenty of wind today.
And the Raiders, second only to the Giants on defense. Will they like the conditions?
Well, I slugged it out down in the pits a lot of times, and the guys down there enjoy the mud and the muck. The Raiders are a very physical team, and I think they're going to be comfortable today.
Well, it sounds as if, Merlin, that by your comments, the Raiders come in here in what is rated as an even game, getting a break because of the conditions.
I think the conditions do help them, but they have their problems. Marcus Allen has really not been a factor for 3 weeks. Played briefly last week. Mark Wilson, the quarterback, still nursing a sore thumb. Expected to start, as is Marcus. And also Mike Haynes, great back on the defensive side of it, who's so key to their man-to-man situation, is also hurt.
And Don Shula, who has had only one losing season in his 24 years of coaching, but 2-4 in a critical game for his Dolphins today. He's had trouble, as you have indicated, beating the Raiders 3-9. 2 years. In white, the Dolphins' Wad Reves will kick it off. Stephon Adams and Fulton Walker, the ex-Dolphin, are deep. He skids it down and bounces it right over the head of Adams, and the Raiders will take it at the 20. The wind will be very tricky. It is not blowing as often it is right to left. It's more of a crosswind from the Raider sidelines to the near sidelines. Mark Wilson, as you can see, will start. Jim Plunkett led the Raiders to victory against Seattle last week. Frank Hawkins back at fullback. Marcus Allen, we don't know if he's in there or not. We'll check. Yes, he will start. Many feel a cosmetic start. Barksdale and Williams on the outside. Todd Christensen, the leading pass catcher, 34. Davis, Hanna, Mosbar, Marvin, Lawrence, a big offensive line. On a wet field, that will help the Raiders. Allen for 2 yards. Ran into Mark Brown, the linebacker from Purdue, number 51. Let's check the Dolphin defense. A defense much maligned. They've allowed something like 32 points a game. Doug Betters starts for the injured rookie T.J. Turner. Baumhauer, the veteran, on the nose, and George Little, the other outside man. Brzezinski shipped the brilliant young rookie from Western Michigan, John Offerdahl, and Mark Brown. Paul Langford, William Judson, Glenn Blackwood, just activated yesterday, and Donovan Rose in a rebuilt back four. Christensen, short of the first down, draws a Miami crowd. A gain of 6. It'll be 3rd and 3.
Doug Betters held out early this year. Shula has been slow getting him back into the lineup. Has been an excellent pass rusher, but right there you just see him locking up man to man and not going anywhere, as Henry Lawrence just took 2 hands full of jersey and said, hey fella, you ain't going to get to my quarterback.
Tough to get a holding call, isn't it?
Oh boy.
3rd down and 2 at the 28. They spot progress. Allen, he's going to be very close, and I believe they've spotted it at the 30, and that's all he needed to get to that yard marker.
But a very tentative Marcus Allen. You see him protecting that leg, holding it up out of the pile. I don't think, Dick, that he can be a real factor in this game today. Let's look at him and watch him run up in there, and look how he kind of tiptoes up into there. Takes the football, and that's the kind of place that you see Marcus Allen usually make that hard plant and drive up into the opening. It's going to be interesting to watch him to see if he really can play today on that bad ankle.
Talk about planting and driving. Bob Brzezinski, number 59, certainly applied all his technique on a good solid tackle.
This Miami defense has a lot to atone for. They have not had anywhere near the kind of season that you would hope for even an adequate defense.
Wilson, well protected. What a catch by Christensen in a crowd of 5 Dolphins. The tight end of the Raiders has a first down at the Miami 47.
I asked Mark Wilson about the weather. I said, does this rain bother you? He said, no. He said, I don't worry about the rain, but he said, I don't like playing in the wind. And Mark Wilson in particular has problems in the wind because his longer passes tend to hang. He throws them relatively high. Here you see him zipping it right down the middle to Todd Christensen. Very dependable pair of hands. Look at him, right in traffic, going up over Offerdahl to bring down that catch for a first down.
They spot progress at the Miami 49. Marcus Allen for 4 or 5 into the 44-yard line. By the way, Todd Christensen with that catch, his 35th of the year. He started today 3rd in the NFL behind Al Toon, 39 with the Jets, and Stanley Morgan, the New England Patriots, and then Christensen tied with Jerry Rice of the 49ers. 6 yards for Allen on extra effort. Ran a little better that time.
Well, he did. Looked better on that play, and I think as that ankle warms up, he'll be able to get a little more pressure on it.
Barksdale in motion. Hawkins caught in the backfield. Mark Brown made the play, and then help from there now, despite an injury, T.J. Turner.
Well, they got a 4-man line in there.
3rd and 8. And Wilson has running room, has a first down at the 38 of Miami. Well, that's what Jim Plunkett did so cleverly last week. On a couple of critical scrambles and helped the Raiders to a win over the Seattle Seahawks. So Wilson on 3rd and long, able to run for the first down.
Mark Wilson does not like to run the football. He's basically a pocket passer. Both these passers today, pocket passers. But Wilson, in the Raiders system, and you'll notice a big difference in the kind of patterns they run. They ask that offensive line for a lot of time. The Raiders pass patterns usually take longer to develop than Miami pass patterns.
Driving from the opening kickoff from their 20, another first down, and here comes Marcus Allen. Bolts to the 28, nearly 10 more yards for the Raiders.
Marcus surprising me a little bit with his ability to stay in there, and looks like he is indeed running better. Probably something to kill the pain in that ankle, I'm sure, before the game. You'll see him here in behind a fine block by Hawkins, who drives in to give him some room. Yeah, he's putting some pressure on that ankle. We'll keep an eye on him, though. I tell you, you take a good shot, and it may take the zip out of you when you've had 2 weeks, literally 3 weeks of trying to get back so you can run. And watching him in practice all week, he was really not able to get around well at all.
10 yards for Allen and another first down. Marcus Allen, who was voted the National Football League's most valuable player last year, as he led the entire league in rushing with over 1,700 yards. Missed 2 games after an 0-3 start. He missed the game against San Diego and Kansas City, both won by the Raiders, and played sparingly last week as Napoleon McCallum, 75 yards rushing, led Los Angeles. From the 28. Marcus Allen was open in that left flat, but overshot by Wilson as we check our of the have-nots. 10th play of the drive coming up, 2nd and 10. And Allen, just as it appeared he had some big yardage, gets only 5 as Jackie Shipp and Doug Betters were able to pinch him down.
Allen not happy with that as he hits the ground, but the Raiders doing something here that Miami has had trouble with all year. They're putting together a long, time-consuming drive. Raiders would like to do what so many other teams plan to do or would like to do against Miami, and that is to keep Marino and the Miami offense on the sideline.
Don Shula has sent in 2 extra defensive backs and brought out 2 linebackers. So in essence, a 4-1-6 alignment. 3rd and 5. Wilson, lots of time, and he has his man for a first down. Rod Barksdale at the 15-yard line, his 3rd catch of the year as Judson makes the tackle, and for Barksdale, his first since the opening game against Denver.
Barksdale, a surprise starter today. We expected Jesse Hester, but Hester has been nursing an ankle problem, and they like Barksdale's speed. But here he is, able to get himself open, and that ball slightly thrown behind him, working on William Judson, number 49, but Barksdale made the catch.
5 first downs on this opening drive for the Raiders. Allen slashing for 3 or 4 yards. Consumed already 6.5 minutes of this opening period on the drive. Mark Brown with another tackle for the Dolphins.
They like Glenn Blackwood back in there, Dick. Blackwood is kind of a coordinator out there for that defense, gives them some confidence. He's in for Bud Brown. Bud's a very aggressive player, but doesn't have the experience of a Glenn Blackwood. They like having him back in that lineup.
While Blackwood, the older brother, watching today back in Texas as he was released this past week. 2nd and 6. Lots of time. Now it breaks down, and the first sack of the game goes to Bob Baumhauer, number 73, with an assist to 51 Brown.
Dolphins have not been able to get to the quarterback consistently during this year. They've had to usually resort to pressure from the linebackers. In fact, I think coming into the game, Hugh Green had 4 sacks, which led the team, even though he's been out for 3 weeks. Here's Chuck Studley. And he said last week, I thought our defense looked great sitting on the bench. And what he was saying is that we have literally been on the field for the whole game in many of the early games, and they have. Of course, they gave up over 50 points in 2 of those games. So they not only were on the field, but they were out there a heck of a lot more than they wanted to be.
3rd and long. Almost intercepted. Todd Christensen had to go off his hands, and Donovan Rose, a veteran of the Canadian Football League, played very well against Buffalo and earned a starting job today. Almost had his 2nd interception.
I think if Christensen doesn't reach back and get a piece of that football, that ball would have been intercepted. Here he is. Wilson with all kinds of time, as you see Brzezinski right on top of Christensen. Look at that. He tapped it back, just kind of dropped it out, and then reached back into Rose's hands to kind of strip that ball away. Dick, it is going to be treacherous kicking the ball into this wind today, as well as trying to pass it.
And Chris Barr will test the win, a 32-yard attempt. It is just good. He hooked it around but inside that left upright. So Barr, who had missed only 1, and that was last week against Seattle, hits a difficult 32-yarder. And the Raiders' nearly 8-minute march results in 3 points off to Carter and Davenport. Into the wind. That wind knocking it down. Playing tricks with it. Carter at the 5. Oh, what an open field tackle and a fumble. The hit was made by Andy Parker, the tight end, and the Raiders have turned it over. What a hit by Parker, who backs up Christensen at tight end.
The Raiders with very reckless and successful special teams played last week, and they come right and pick it up here again. Carter had to dip for that football, didn't get it quite put away, but there was the shoulder right on the football by Andy Parker. No chance for Carter to protect it. Just shot that shoulder right through the ball and broke it loose.
Sam Seal dropped on the ball at the 18-yard line. A big break for the Raiders, leading 3-0. Napoleon McCallum joins Frank Hawkins in the backfield behind Wilson. McCallum gets the call, and he is cut down with a solid low tackle. Bob Brzezinski, who's made a couple of big hits already, the veteran from Ohio State.
Turnovers always a big part of every game. Both these teams struggling in that department, as they have turned it over more than they have taken it away from their opponents.
But that's usual for the Raiders and unusual for Miami.
Well, the Raiders seem to be able to overcome that. Not many teams can, even good football teams.
Well, Miami drops to a -8. McCallum in motion. Almost intercepted. Is there a flag? No. Incidental contact, apparently, between Barksdale and Donovan Rose. Is that a wonderful name, Donovan Rose?
Let's go back and take a peek at that. And certainly that's the kind of contact that in other years probably would have been deemed interference. Look on the left side of your picture. Boy, I'll tell you, unless the ball is deemed uncatchable, it would appear, looking at it from that angle, that they may have missed one.
Well, Barksdale would agree with that evaluation.
That defender is not allowed to go through the receiver to get after the football.
3rd and 8. Wilson to Christensen, incomplete. As Christensen, the big tight end from BYU, tried to spear it with one hand. Doug Betters was applying pressure on Wilson. And so, for Miami, an apparent field goal attempt by Barr represents a moral victory.
It certainly does. And when you get that kind of an opportunity deep in an opponent's territory, a chance early in the game to deliver a telling blow, the Raiders unable to get the touchdown. Now they're going to have to try and settle for the field goal, which is not going to be a gimme either.
This one almost the same distance as the 32-yarder. This one would be 33. You saw how the last one hooked going into the wind. And this one is just good enough as he sidewinds it through. So he has just the right touch. Chris Barr. Well, a drive to the 15 for a field goal. The fumble becomes another 3. By most of the National Football League teams, you beat the Raiders, you know you've beaten a good team.
Well, not only that, but it's also a test for the Dolphins in that the two teams that they have defeated don't have a lot of victories between them.
Buffalo and Indianapolis. Dan Marino and the offense has not touched the ball yet, and the game is 9 minutes old as Barr kicks it off.
It's a hanger again.
Carter's going to let it bounce, and he almost flirted with another mistake and has to eat it at the 11-yard line. Tim Moffitt and Stephon Adams was downfield.
On a wet day, that ball plays tricks. I think a good move by Carter, but it backfired.
Dan Marino finally gets a chance, starting deep in his own end. Lorenzo Hampton, Woody Bennett the backs with the Marks men on the outside, both with 27 catches.
Very steady. Foster and Stevenson.
Mike Haynes does not start for the Raiders. Hampton for a couple, and he earned them. We'll check the Raider defense in just a moment. First, we'll update the scores. Buffalo leads Indianapolis 7-0. Second down and 7, and flags are down. No play. Like motion or illegal procedure. Or a defensive offside. Let's see if he was drawn off. Referee Tom Dooley.
Number 75, defense. Second down.
Howie Long a little bit too eager to get in and get a shot at Dan Marino. Working on Greg Cook on the far side. Just jumped the count. I think just a little bit overexcited in his first opportunity of the game.
So they take it out to the 14-yard line, where it'll be second down and between 2 and 3 yards for the Dolphins. Duper left. Clayton to the right. And Bennett in motion to block. And Hampton squirting through for a first down at the 17. Bill Packel on the nose, assisted by number 30 Western State Colorado. Will start at that corner. Turan and McElroy at safety. Marino's first pass. Duper. Seal with a tackle. First down at the 33.
You know they're going to come after Sammy Seal. The whole Raiders scheme revolves around putting those two cornerbacks man-to-man on the outside and saying, we can handle your outside speed with them. With Sammy Seal in there in place of Mike Haynes, Dan Marino says very simply, I don't believe it, and he gets the completion. They also were able to protect their quarterback on that last play. They get a little double team in there. Dan Johnson able to give them a little bit of help on the outside.
Long does occupy more than one man. Woody Bennett. And on a wet field, Bennett, with that extra size, 225 pounds, rumbles for 7. Matt Millen brought him down.
He did get some help deep. Ball just overthrown.
Third down and 3, and Miami comes with 4 wide receivers. Pruitt and Nat Moore joining Clayton and Duper. That's Pruitt in motion. Deflected and incomplete. Ball up for grabs for a moment. Nat Moore was the nearest Dolphin. Bill Packel appeared to get a hand in the way of that trajectory.
Lester Hayes almost had an interception, and then there were a couple of Dolphins that perhaps had a chance at that football, but Miami's first opportunity offensively will end in a punt.
So trailing 6-0 with 2:35 left. Roby, who didn't punt all last week. In fact, there was only 1 punt in the Buffalo game, tying a National Football League record. He said, do I get paid?
Dangerous, too. With the wind, he may outkick his coverage, which could give him a chance for a big return.
Bolton Walker at the other end. Look at the wind drive that. Walker lets it go wisely, and it will be The Raiders ball on the touchback of the...
In fact, I've never seen a professional game canceled, Dick.
This isn't a pitcher's game. This is a hitter's game. Marcus Allen, no place to hide. Jackie Shipp, number 50, a #1 pick of the Dolphins out of Oklahoma in '84, made the tackle.
Jackie said that he had become more aggressive this last week. Said it really pays some dividends. You can tell with that last play that he is trying to get in there as rapidly as possible, put a real sting on him.
Hester to the left. Barksdale, no, that's Williams now in motion. Whoops. Motion against the Raiders, so this will be called back, but the Dolphins will take the sack by number 51, Mark Brown, and has he had an outstanding opening quarter. Hawkins had moved forward. Dolphins undoubtedly will decline the penalty.
Illegal shift, illegal motion on 27.
From his own 8-yard line to give to Marcus Allen. And he gets only 5. And that'll bring up 4th down, and the Raider punting team comes on the field.
And that has to be music to Chuck Studley's ears. His defensive team hasn't received many cheers this year.
They're on their feet to greet the defense.
Where's the ball?
Ray Guy, the veteran from Southern Mississippi, who has punted for over 42,000 yards. You see Chuck Studley, the defensive coordinator, in the orange shirt. Guy with Pruitt at the other end.
Guy's had trouble with his kicking. He told me on Friday he thought it was because he was overstriding.
Very high, and that one isn't going anywhere. Bounces back, and Miami will get it at the 23. Ray Guy downs his own punt.
It's like a golfer, Dick, who thinks he's found the key to his swing. Probably the most dangerous thing in the world, to tinker with the mechanics. Let's watch Ray Guy. I've never seen it before, Dick.
8 yards, and taking over at the 22, it's Lorenzo Hampton, who played his college ball to the north at the University of Florida, picking up 5 up the middle before Reggie McKenzie could make the tackle. Good block, Roy Foster. Minnesota, 13-0 in the first quarter over the unbeaten Bears. Dallas leads by a touchdown. San Francisco's lead cut to 7-3. New England with a field goal. Houston, Cincinnati tied. The Redskins lead 7-0. Cleveland a 7-0 lead in the second against Green Bay. Buffalo leading 7-0, and New Orleans by 10. As the final seconds tick away, and there it is, the end of the opening quarter here in Miami, Florida. The Orange Bowl, 2 opportunities for the Raiders, but they come up with only field goals. It's 6-0 from 7.5 minutes plus, and then the fumble recovery. So they had time of possession, but came away with only 6 points.
And with 2 excellent opportunities, they can't be too happy with that. Look at the wind whipping that flag, and of course with the change of quarters, the teams have exchanged the wind. Now Miami is putting its nose into that stiff breeze that makes a difference in your passing game, and a big difference, as you saw, in the kicking game. Guy's kick blown right back into his face, and on the 2 field goals, Barr kicking a low hook to try and keep it out of the wind did a good job of getting it through the goalposts.
We open the second quarter. Miami's ball at the 18 of the Raiders. 2nd down and 5. Marino, touchdown, Bruce Hardy. Well timed as Marino stepping up into the cup and gunning a shot to Hardy for Hardy's 2nd touchdown of the season.
You can almost read Dan Marino's mind. If you'll give me time, I'll find the open man. Well, he certainly did that.
Into the wind. Even an extra point could be an adventure today, and Revés will try to give Miami the lead. just does slice it to the right and through. And on the first play of the second quarter, an 18-yard touchdown throw. Marino to Hardy gives the Dolphins the lead.
D, the right choice.
For the first time this season, the Orange Bowl in Miami sold out. Now Fuad Reves to kick off into the wind. 7-6 Dolphin lead as they were opportunistic on the short 8-yard punt by Guy. Reves, look at that ball dive. Walker, that's a free ball, and Walker just does save it at the 22-yard line. Dolphins all around it. They came within a stride of picking it off.
Let's go back and look at the touchdown pass by Marino. The patchwork offensive line in front of him shutting down the Raider pass rush, and Marino able to spot Hardy breaking free on the inside, isolated man-to-man on the linebacker Rod Martin, number 53, and just threaded the needle. Boy, you can't let somebody get open. Marino will find the open man and he'll get him the football.
Raiders start at the 22. Hester, the motion man. Screen it to Marcus Allen. He's got 6 yards to the 28 behind a good block by Mosbar.
On the tackle, 51, Brown.
7-6. Miami leads the Raiders here at the Orange Bowl. Less than a minute gone in the second quarter. Allen has a first down to the 35. Jackie Shipp, Mark Brown, and others on the tackle. Allen apparently, maybe it's a combination of the slick turf and his bad ankle. They're using Allen more straight ahead rather than letting him dance outside. But that's good yardage in this opening.
That's excellent yardage. He only had 11 yards in, what, about 7 carries last week? And most of that yardage on one big carry. His average was very poor.
First down from the Raider 35. Wilson dumps it out to Allen. Good play by Brzezinski. He has made 3 solid hits on Allen, almost as if they've assigned Brzezinski as Allen's shadow.
I don't think they've exactly done that, but he's in Brzezinski's territory. And Bob, best known really for his play against the running game. Really one of the better tacklers on this Dolphin team. And I think that's a place in which Allen's tender ankle hurts him most, when he wants to reach for that quick cut and can't do it.
A loss of about 3. Draw play to Allen, running room. And he almost has a first down. Stopped at the 44. It'll be 3rd and 1. 11 yards for Allen.
We mentioned Frank Hawkins' desire to do more than just be a blocker. Well, there's no question he can do that job and does it well. Look at him, a little delay right there, and then stacks up Offerdahl on the inside, freezing the linebacker just long enough to allow Marcus to get outside. Let's look at Offerdahl's side of it. He read it well. There's the arm to the outside. I'll tell you, they'll look at that one in the coaching film and say, hey, that's illegal. You can't grab the linebacker.
3rd and 1. Allen again. He's got running room. And he's all the way to the 31-yard line. Marcus Allen, who has had his number called 5 straight times, and the Raiders have moved from their 22 all the way to the Miami 31. 25 yards on that play.
Well, I think the word competitor can be so beautifully applied to this man. His feelings were hurt. I think that his team had won 3 games without him. Got a brief chance to play last week, was not a factor. Well, he has definitely become a factor here, sore ankle and all.
That's the longest run of the Raiders season. Allen had a 20-yard gain earlier, 25 yards on that carry. He leaves and McCallum comes in. But Allen's had an outstanding first half. Raiders trail 7-6. Hawkins. And they're finding big chunks of yardage right up the middle of that Miami defense. That's another first down before Shipp can bring down the big fullback.
How many did you get on
Reminder,
that,
we'll announce our Budweiser Most Valuable Player in today's game at the conclusion of this Orange Bowl contest.
88,
very few players on the field operating without some kind of physical problem, but you saw briefly the right knee of Frank Hawkins taped and braced because he had twisted that knee. He's operating on a bad leg out there and doing a whale of a job.
From the 20-yard line on first down, it's McCallum through another big hole. Oh. Napoleon McCallum's all the way to the 3-yard line.
It's been a long while since this Miami defense has really been able to stiffen up and play the run well. The result of that is that people come out with the idea of attacking them on the ground. The Raiders have done that today and done it effectively. As you see McCallum running out of a tackle there, a second tackle, and that's been one of the most painful things for Chuck Studley. His people don't seem to be able to make those tackles, don't seem to be able to take those runners down when they get a shot at them.
First and goal from the 2, and the touchdown a game man, Marcus Allen, has another. In the 60 games in which he has carried the ball, Allen has scored 60 touchdowns. And he's now 61 for 61. There was one other game where he played but did not carry the ball, and that accounts for 61 and 62.
Well, the defense of Miami, briefly cheered earlier in this game, suddenly has drawn a very quiet response to their efforts here as Marcus Allen simply goes airborne for this touchdown.
Very impressive drive, and Allen was the key figure, a dominant figure, primarily running the football. With the win, Chris Barr tries to make it 13-7. "78 yards in 8 plays. Allen with a touchdown, the Raiders with a lead.
Los Angeles Raiders 13, Miami 7.
Marcus Allen bolting over a line that had crushed the Miami defense.
You know, when I first took this crazy job.
The mode of Marcus Allen. Dominant on that drive. He had 49 of his 90 yards in the touchdown drive that gives the Raiders the lead. The high kick with the win. At the 1-yard line is Ron Davenport for Miami. And Davenport a good return close to the 25-yard line. Steve Strahan made the tackle. Tommy Kramer, who was tied with Dan Marino most touchdown passes, 13, has 2 against the Bears, a blocked extra point. No changes in the other 2 games. New England jumping on Pittsburgh 17-0. Cincinnati leading Houston by a touchdown, and the Redskins a 2-touchdown lead. Cleveland 7-3 against Green Bay. Buffalo same score against Indianapolis, and New Orleans by 10 versus Tampa Bay.
Miami driving into the wind, and you've seen what a powerful impact that has on this game already.
13-7 Raiders. Lorenzo Hampton dancing, but too many partners.
What a nice play by Matt Millen. Spike in from the inside. Lorenzo Hampton wanted to head upfield, but Millen had read it well, was coming like a freight train from the inside. Forced Hampton outside. You'll see it here. Millen, number 55, right-hand side of your screen. Watch him as he reads it and forces it inside out right there, and then just keeps plowing until he gets a piece of Hampton's leg and won't let him out. Nice play by the defense.
Robinson and McElroy quick to back him up.
Millen off because he is not a great cover of passes, and of course they expect Marino to go to the air here.
Drilling it to Hardy. That was the team that collaborated for the touchdown. And he has a 3rd and 2 when we return first to NFL 86. New name to familiarize ourselves with. Bubba Brister, who has done a good job for the Steelers. They're happy about him replacing Mark Malone, but it's been a case of the 2nd-string quarterback being very popular in Pittsburgh for quite a while. Lovey gets a touchdown. There's a flag. It'll go against the Dolphins, and that'll deny Tony Nathan's first down reception. It appeared that the offensive line pulled back before the snap.
Marino saying to his line, for heaven's sakes, look, we don't get a penalty. We got a first down. Give us a chance. They do have their problems in there. Jeff Dallenbach is only making a second start at guard. Ronnie Lee, of course, had to go on IR with a serious groin injury. John Giesler so far doing a good job.
Illegal motion, number 68 offense. Third down.
Greg Cook. That's Greg Cook. We mentioned that he's playing on an injured ankle, unable to practice much this week. And of course, when you go against the Raiders, you know you got to deal with their strength. Among other strengths in that defense, their ability to rush the passer, although they're operating today without Greg Townsend, suspended because of an incident 2 weeks ago, and that does hurt their pass rush.
By the way, Greg Cook, the man who was ticketed with that motion penalty, number 68, played, of course, at Green Bay for 8 years, made some comments about the Packers fans, their wardrobe. He might be weighted down by the gift he received from Wisconsin. We'll show you some
We'll
examples.
have some fun with that a little later. I wouldn't be surprised to see him go right out to the outside here. They've still got Sammy Seal, although it's James Davis out there right now on the wide receiver to the right.
Shotgun 3rd and 7. Marino's receiver Moore fell down out at the 44. And Marino fortunate that ball wasn't picked off by McElroy. Reggie Roby comes on to punt. Here's Greg Cook, Bubba Cook, outspoken, very clever. Well, that's the punchline to the joke. We'll tell you the joke later. Roby kicking into the wind. Oh, and he scuffs one. And it dies at midfield, bounces out of bounds at the 49-yard line. Roby almost missed it completely. So the wind not only affecting the ball in flight, apparently the drops by the punters, and Roby uses a very high drop, might have blown it almost off his foot.
So concerned. Oh, you see that ball snapping to the side, and Roby gets it just barely off his foot, in danger actually of missing that ball. Where was it? We saw one of those last year.
21 yards on the punt. Second quarter, Roby with a 21-yard punt watches at the Raiders break huddle at the Miami 48-yard line. Los Angeles leads 13-7. The sun now shining here at the Orange Bowl after the rain earlier. Napoleon McCallum weaving his way to the 37-yard line before Ship can drag him down. That's interesting. Ensign McCallum tackled by a Ship.
That will pick up the 10th first down for the Los Angeles Raiders so far in this half to only 3 for Miami. And so far the Raiders game plan of trying to establish the running game, trying to control the football, has certainly worked to their advantage.
McCallum again. Another huge hole, but it closed fairly quickly as again the Ensign is tackled by a Ship.
Talk to the Miami defenders who've been watching McCallum, of course, getting a lot of work with Marcus on the sideline, and they say they see some of the same moves, some of the same fluidity in him that they see in Marcus. A high compliment. Marcus in the ball game right now, as I think they're trying to keep him fresh, although they don't want him to sit too long or that ankle will probably stiffen up on him.
They're both 6'2". Allen checks in at 205. McCallum is 10 pounds heavier. 2nd and 5. Wilson with time and can't find Hester down inside the 5-yard line as he was covered well by William Judson and Donovan Rose.
I mentioned that Mark Wilson concerned about the wind, and one of the reasons is that he tends to hang the ball up, in particular on long passes, and you saw him trying to gauge the wind on that one. Has to underthrow that ball knowing the wind was going to blow it. Hung it out there for a receiver with great speed, but still overthrew it. Watch it here as he just hangs that ball up, but look how far over the head of the intended receiver it went.
Not just throwing into the wind that's tough on the quarterback, trying to gauge its effect when it's behind you. Allen and Hawkins having trouble with the crowd noise. It's Hawkins. No trouble from the Miami defense. Hawkins rips it to the 20-yard line. A gain of a dozen more. At will on the ground. We pause briefly for station identification from Miami. This is the NBC television network.
This is WNBC TV, New York.
5 minutes and 45 seconds remaining in the first half. The Raiders lead Miami here in the Orange Bowl 13-7. Have another first down at the Dolphin 20-yard line. Both wide receivers to the right. Hawkins in motion. They'll run in that direction. Allen diving down at the 17-yard line. A 4-yard pickup. Glenn Blackwood played his college bowl at Texas. Back from a severely bruised thigh that had kept him out of the first 6 games of this season. That first score still the big story of this 7th week of the season. Minnesota leading the Bears 13-0. The Redskins, one of the top teams in the NFL, only once beaten, taking it out on St. Louis. Cleveland trying to stay atop the AFC Central, leading 14-3. Wilson to Allen, touchdown, and just as simple as that, the Raiders have another 6. Isolated Allen on linebacker Jackie Shipp.
You hammer and hammer and hammer up the middle. You force the defense to become conscious of that running game, and then you just go ahead and throw it over the top. Marcus Allen one-on-one on Jackie Shipp. Shipp didn't have a chance.
So both short punts have led to scores. First Miami taking advantage of the 8-yard guy punt, and now the 21-yard kick by Roby. And the Raiders have scored again. Barr adds the extra point, and with 4 minutes and 41 seconds left in the half, it is 20-7. 48 yards in 6 plays, with Allen scoring for the 2nd time today.
See Marcus on the sideline being congratulated. That was Townsend that came over to pat him on the back. Dick, the wind blows so hard in Miami that occasionally, I'm talking to Fulton Walker, he said that there on 4 occasions, Shula had them, when they won the toss, elect to kick the football as opposed to taking the football here in Miami. And you can see why with the impact that wind has had on the game here early.
There's Townsend. Well, and Scott Norwood just add to that last week. The Buffalo Bills kicker missed a 60-yard field goal. They said it was more than halfway up on the upright. Would have been good for an NFL record, more than 60, but it bounced back onto the field.
Greg Townsend on the sideline because of the suspension, and been a cause célèbre for him. Not the kind he would want. Certainly he would much rather be playing in this game. Commissioner deciding that his actions were above and beyond the call 3 occasions in a game against Kansas City.
Barr lifts it high and deep, and the wind will blow that one right out of the end zone. Davenport takes the ball at the 20.
First and 10 Miami Dolphins at the 20.
Well, the Boston Red Sox, the underdogs in the '86 World Series, opened last night with a 1-0 win at Shea Stadium, New York, and you couldn't, well, if you love pitching, you couldn't ask for more than tonight's game at 8 o'clock Eastern Time. Roger Clemens, undoubtedly the Cy Young Award winner in the American League, goes against the man who won that honor in the National League last year, Dwight Gooden, the New York Mets. The entire gang ready to call the action. Game 2 of the Fall Classic from Shea Stadium tonight, right here on NBC.
Not exactly a hitter's battle last night, Dick.
Well, I thought that was interesting. Vince Scully indicating that first 1-0 shutout win in something like 14 years, over 80 games. Maybe it will be a hitter's night tonight. It doesn't figure. From the 20, Marino. 4 yards to Mark Clayton. Lester Hayes playing Clayton. It was interesting yesterday talking with Lester Hayes and talking with Clayton and Duper and asking them, how are Hayes and Haynes different? He said, well, Hayes is like a baseball hitter that's a guess hitter, aggressive, looking for your mistake, trying to outguess you, where Mike Haynes, where more or less he just lets you do your thing and shadows you, just follows you wherever you go. Much more subtle in his approach. Nothing subtle about that sack. Rod Martin, number 53, breaking through on the blitz. And Sean Jones was there as well.
Every man has his own responsibilities in that offensive line. Dwight Stevenson locked up man on the nose on Piquel. Howie Long actually outside in a stunt. Piquel coming inside, and Stevenson picking up Piquel, who usually plays on the nose, did his job, but Martin slipping in to get a nice shot there. It's a stunt to the outside, but there's you see Piquel right there locked out of that play. But unfortunately, everyone didn't pick up their men that well.
Martin's 4th sack of the year takes away the 4 yards that Miami scored on first down. On 3rd and 10, up for grabs and incomplete. And Nat Moore says they went over the top of me, and Moore should be thankful if that ball isn't in the grasp of the Raiders. Well, McElroy was right there.
The 12th man today is the wind for the team that has it at their backs. That ball just hung up there. The defensive players with plenty of time then to react to it, and actually they were going after that football when it got close to the receiver. They had a better shot at it by far than Nat Moore did.
And now it's Roby to boot the ball into that stiff wind.
Well, you got to be scared with that breeze howling at you down there.
60-yard kick and a 21-yard kick.
Oh, he drives it low.
Late fair catch by Walker at his 47-yard line, and that's about all you're going to be able to expect out of a kick going in that direction. 33 yards. There's the Mad Stork, who played as an All-American here at the University of Miami, and then of course in the National Football League many times an All-Pro.
Great story about him when he was playing on the inside, and at a time when they were doing a lot of cracking on the linebackers. Lester Hayes was given the job. He said when those receivers start in motion, warn that guy in there. So he's yelling in there, kick, 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 kick. He's having trouble getting that out. And they went out there. Hendricks said, come on, Lester, spit it out.
Said Hendricks there to root on his teammates. Ooh. And there's a good solid hit by Glenn Blackwood coming up to knock Napoleon McCallum off his feet, but not until the Raiders have another 5.5, 6 yards.
The Raiders very happy to take advantage of that porous run defense by the Dolphins. The Dolphins have really been hurt by big plays more than anything during this year, but they still have not discovered how to stop the running game, and at the root of their basic defensive problems, I think, is that particular problem.
2:45 left in the first half. 20-7, the Raiders lead. Going for more. Wide open is Hester, and it is a good catch. Hester got both feet down, and that was a thoughtful reception.
Knowing where the sideline is. Boy, you gotta believe that those receivers must have an extra set of eyes to be able to watch that ball and to feel the sideline. Look at him. His toes couldn't have been more than an inch and a half from that sideline. He gets them both down, bumped out of bounds, but that's the kind of big play that I mentioned that Miami has been hurt with. Two defenders in the area, neither in a position to defend against that pass.
Raiders are moving the ball at will in the second quarter and leading 20-7 to give it to Marcus Allen. He's inside the 10-yard line. Mark Brown with the initial hit. Yeah, when you can run the ball on first down and gain 7, your defense is in trouble. Coming down to the 2-minute mark, 2:12 showing on the clock, and the Raiders not in any haste to get a play off before that warning. In fact, Mark Wilson is on his way to talk with Tom Flores on the far sidelines.
Well, they want points here, but they don't want to leave much time for Miami.
There is the 2-minute warning timeout, and at the Orange Bowl in Miami, it's the Raiders leading by 13. Cook up there in Green Bay played for the Packers 8 years. He said someone that thinks himself as a fancy dresser has 10 bowling shirts. So the folks up there in Wisconsin sent this week 130 bowling shirts to Greg Cook, and being one of the best dressed sportsmen in all of America. Well, let's see. Well, here, this is you. Is this not you?
I think
Look at
this
that.
is probably me.
And you were the best kegler to ever come out of Logan, Utah. These are some of the examples. Back to the action. Uh-oh. Marcus Allen is down back at the 20 as a misfire on the toss from Mark Wilson, and that's a break for the Dolphins.
Well, a little humor in the booth, but there's no humor with that kind of mistake on the field as they take themselves back out of the play. That ball zipping in. Mark just threw it on the backside. Marcus Allen able to get it back and get it into control. And I think when he's healthy, he maybe reverses his field and makes that bad play into at least a partial good play, going all the way back against the grain. He has the speed to do that. But on the bad ankle, he elected just to make sure that the ball stays in control of the Raiders here, and that's a break for Miami.
Allen on a draw.
Whoa.
What a fine tackle by the rookie Offerdahl to stop Allen cold after just a couple of yards. So for the third time, the Raiders have to settle for a field goal.
Well, if you're a young linebacker at home and you want to watch how a tackle is supposed to be made, watch Offerdahl. Down low, good balance, puts that helmet right to the chest and puts down Marcus Allen.
Offerdahl, who plays the French horn. They often use a mute on those, don't they? Well, they put a mute on Marcus. As we get ready to see if the score will change here in Miami, a check of the other action in the National Football League. With 33 seconds of clock winding down and the Miami Dolphins not calling time. And it's Barr from 35 yards trying to hit his third of this half. And with the wind, he sails it through. And a flag is down. Delay of game. Raiders. So they'll have to kick it again from 5 yards farther away. It'll be a 40-yard attempt.
Well, I think he could move it out a long ways here with the wind at his back. But of course, you can't be assured that that wind is going to be blowing from directly behind you. At times, the winds will gust here and move that ball left and right, although that ball appeared to fly pretty straight.
In a way, the score is misleading, 19-7. The Raiders have been much more in control than that. They had an opening drive that stalled at the 15, settled for a field goal. Then they had a fumble recovery on the ensuing kickoff, but only could get 3 out of that. And here's another 3 points, and they lead 19-7 anyway. So this one will be 40 yards, almost 41. Wilson to hold. And it's right down the middle. So Barr 3 for 3 and has missed only 1 all year. Timeout. It's 23-7. Remaining in this first half at the Orange Bowl, where the sun now shining.
Oh.
Barr with the wind high. Ron Davenport will not run it out. And so the Dolphins will have a chance for a couple of plays if they elect to stop the clock from their own 20-yard line, as Dan Marino and the offense come on the field trailing 23-7. Marino just has not seen much duty. The Raiders have had the ball almost the entire first half.
Well, they say that the best defense against Dan Marino when he's hot is not to let him get his hands on the football, and the Raiders have done a good job here in the first half. Few opportunities for him, and he has capitalized, of course, on one of them early, but that's really been the only moment of glory for this Dolphin team in the entire first half. Maybe their biggest play was Ray Guy's 8-yard punt.
And here he can't really unload a long one because he's throwing into that stiff wind. Changing his play from the shotgun is Marino. And hands off to Nathan. Tony Nathan. A pickup of almost 17 yards before Piquel can make the tackle. 7 seconds left in the half. Timeout Miami. 23-7. The Raiders lead it. The half, Miami trailing 23-7. Ball at the Miami 37. Nathan on the short pass, and he's covered by McKenzie. And that is the end of the first 30 minutes. The Los Angeles Raiders using a solid ground game and an occasional pass, dominating this first half 23-7.
The continued problems of the Miami defense, dominant on that side of the field. Marino not getting many opportunities. They've got to turn it around here in the second half, where it's going to be an ugly game for Don Shula.
NFL 86 standing by with all the scores and highlights. So stay with us. We'll be back after these messages from your local station.
I got Wilson. Listen.
Here, times have changed for all of us, including this once bare-faced youngster, the All-Pro of the Los Angeles Rams, Merlin Olsen, and Bob Greasy's young son has this as part of his collection. Asked you to autograph it yesterday. You didn't look as mean without the hair on your face.
Took a lot of dust off that thing to bring it out here, but one thing I do know about being on the defensive side of the line of scrimmage is looking at some long scores. And I'm sure that there is a very quiet and a very somber locker room in there for Don Shula and for Chuck Studley in particular, because they know right now that they've got to keep from losing before they can win. That means they got to play some defense. They haven't done much of that in the first half.
Well, it's tough to digest these numbers. Here are the official first half statistics. Time of possession on the bottom, 2-1 in favor of the Raiders, and the Dolphins have to get their offense on the field, but look at the rest.
Marcus Allen has, what, 110 yards total offense, including his running and passing in the first half, Dick. Really a dominant factor. I think a surprise to me that he was able to do so well. But there's no question that the wind has actually dominated a lot of what has happened here in the first half. And I think it's going to be that same way for the second half. Maybe the two most interesting plays were the two kicks. When we saw Ray Guy get into that kick that went 8 yards, no one could believe it. Watch Guy now. He goes and he can't believe it. That ball is coming right back at him. He downs it to keep it from coming back to the line of scrimmage.
Only 8 yards for number 8 Ray Guy. One of the shortest in his career.
Well, I think he had to feel better, though, when a little later, kicking against the wind, Reggie Roby, who is no question the strongest kicker in the NFL, zips one, trying to kick it low against the wind, and he got 21 yards on that one. So Ray Guy had to feel a little bit better, but it's going to be interesting to see who gets the win here in the third quarter, because so far it's been very difficult to score if you are not in charge of that wind or it's not at your back. Look at those trees. Wow.
Halftime, San Francisco 10, Atlanta 3.
That's where the Los Angeles Raiders, with their most effective ground game, have really taken advantage of the conditions. When they've had the ball, they've been able to run the football, whereas their least risk with the weather conditions, and running very effectively and dominating that entire first half. They will be kicking off to Miami to open this second half.
The Raiders will be facing into that wind, and Dan Marino will have a chance with the ball and with the wind to get his Miami team back into this ball game. We mentioned earlier that the Raiders operating without Mike Haynes, starting right cornerback, but so far in the ball game, Marino has not been able to take advantage of Sammy Seal, young defensive player, in fact an offensive receiver just a couple of years ago, converted to a defensive back. He's got to be frightened out there. He's really unfamiliar with a starting assignment at that quarterbacking position, and you've got to believe that Marino will go back at him as he did in the first half with one fine completion to Clayton to see if he can get some points on the board.
The Dolphins almost must get something out of this first possession. The ball dying in that breeze. Davenport breaking clear and is to the 32-yard line. Andy Parker, who made the hit on Davenport or on Joe Carter and forced a fumble in the first half that led to a Raider field goal, gets another special teams tackle. So Marino takes charge at his own 32-yard line, trailing 23-7. Well, you said at the start of our game today, Merlin Olson, it wasn't the rain, and the rain's gone away, but the wind that was the key factor, and the wind has stayed, in fact, blowing harder now than ever. Gusting up into the 30-mile zone, I would guess. Marino almost intercepted by Rod Martin, who drifted back into the sideline zone in front of intended receiver Mark Duper.
I think Bob Zeman anticipated that they would come right over there after Sammy Seal had sent Rod Martin out to help. Seal actually dropping off in that situation, and Martin there quickly enough to bat that ball away.
2nd and 10 at the 32.
There's Bob Zeman on the sideline. Willie Brown standing next to him, one of the great bump and run backs of Raider history, all of football history for that matter.
He's got his place in the Hall of Fame with his great talent defensively. Draw play to Nathan, and he's somersaulted by number 56,
Jeff Barnes. Barnes putting right the same kind of tackle that Offerdahl made a little while ago. No, in talking to the Raider defense, they talk about these Miami receivers, the Duper brother, or the Marks brothers, Duper and Clayton. And they say in those two players, you see a lot of a former Dolphin receiver, a former great receiver who's still on the roster, still doing a great job, still teaching those two. They say you can see it in his stance and the way they walk, the way they move. Interesting comparisons.
And Nat Moore, in fact, Lester Hayes says he thinks Nat Moore learned it from Fred Biletnikoff. Looking at old films, he said he reminds me of Biletnikoff. Marino
to the sidelines. Great catch by Clayton, and that ball was drifting in the wind. That was not a clean shot from Marino. That wind just carried it to Clayton, who showed good concentration to haul it in for a first down at the 49-yard line.
Pass, and you'll see it. You'll see Clayton using. There's the quick release. No question about it. Marino gets that ball out of there so quickly and under pressure. I think the thing that amazes me constantly is when the heat is on, he's able to anticipate the moves of those receivers and get the ball out of there accurately.
First down, first possession of the second half. 23-7, the Raiders lead. Miami with the ball. Marino trying to buy some time and almost is intercepted. Matt Millen in front of Bruce Hardy. And Rod Martin was there too, almost as if the Raiders knew where that ball was going to be thrown. They were all around Hardy.
Marino in a planned rollout, and there are a lot of people who would question doing that with Marino because he does not throw the ball as well on the move as he does from the pocket. But of course, Miami concerned about the pressure that the Raiders are able to put on Marino, and there's no question they can get a little extra time by rolling him out.
Marino said he would have been happy had the weather been nicer to wear a Mets cap and talk about the World Series on NBC tonight. Howie Long said, oh, give me a Red Sox cap. I grew up in Boston. It's going to be Boston that wins the series. Game 2 tonight, 8 o'clock here on the Peacock.
4-man rush.
Wide open underneath. Lorenzo Hampton. I believe he has a first down just shy of the Raider 40. Jeff Barnes made the tackle. 11 yards on the play. Lester Hayes. Let's take a look at him away from the ball.
He says the key to keeping the receivers out of their patterns is to jam them at the line, to break the timing. And boy, you saw him doing it there, jamming Duper hard. Here he is coming all the way across the field as both wide receivers line up to the left of Marino. And Hayes again right on the line will have to follow all the way across.
Woody Bennett caught in the backfield, Howie Long and others, and that'll be a loss. Rod Martin was there as well. A couple of big play men, Long and Martin.
Howie Long given some carte blanche on the line. He'll move around from end to end and go into the middle of the line. The last time we saw him, he was on the left side at left end on that particular play, over at the right end position. Let's keep an eye on him, see where he goes on this down.
Got his size from his father, a 6-foot 8-inch truck driver. Villanova said he was so green when he reported the Raiders he didn't know what they were talking about in the defensive meetings, and now he's become maybe the best down lineman in the league. He occupies 2 or 3 men every play. Here he comes again after Marino knocks the ball away, and Marino is able to fall on it at the 49. Even though Long was being driven out of the play, was able to reach back and swat the ball right out of Marino's mitts.
Well, you know that when the offensive tackle is doing his job, it's to drive you by. Greg Cook, 68. He's got Howie in a lockup, but look at how he just reaches back and swats that football right out of Marino's hands. Marino lucky to get back and get on that football, but of course it's the equivalent of a sack. In fact, it is a sack, as Marino has to cover the football, and it's going to be long yardage for the Dolphins.
Sean Jones, number 99, unhappy that he didn't get the fumble recovery after Howie Long had stripped it free. That counts as a sack. And now 3rd down and a long way to go. 18 yards. Marino with time, drills it, incomplete, intercepted. Van McElroy at the 40. And down at the 47-yard line is McElroy with his 3rd interception of the season.
I think you'll see that ball first ricochet. Someone touched it. One of the Raiders touched it. Then it went off the receiver and finally into the hands of McElroy. Let's see who gets his hand on this ball first. I think it's Sammy Seal, 45. James Davis deflected the ball slightly. Goes off the hands right there of Mark Duper, and of course into the waiting arms of the center fielder, McElroy.
Today's game is brought to you by the heartbeat of America, today's Chevrolet. By Panasonic. Panasonic, just slightly ahead of our time. And by the U.S. Army, a place to be all you can be.
Welcome back to the Orange Bowl in Miami, where the Los Angeles Raiders have a commanding lead and have just intercepted a Marino pass. Begin at their 47, and Marcus Allen. And you know the Raiders are going to try that defense again with a run, and the Dolphins ready that time. Jackie Shipp spearheading the charge.
What a frustrating day for Marino. And you look at the numbers prior to 85. That's actually prior to 86. That's his history. 98 touchdowns, 14 this season, 44 interceptions prior to this year, and yet the ratio you see in the past was better than 2-1 on the touchdown side, and now almost even, partly because of his frustration, Dick.
Yeah, there was a ball that touched two other players before it was intercepted by McElroy. Wide open underneath is Todd Christensen at the 46 of the Dolphins. That'll be short of a first down by about 3. Offerdahl with a tackle. Here it is 23-7 Raiders. Minnesota at the half trying to hand the Bears their first loss in quite some time.
What a big win that would be for Minnesota.
New England, Steve Grogan's thrown a couple touchdown passes. Third down and 3. Marcus Allen. No gain. Offerdahl. Shipp got a little piece of him, and then John Offerdahl underneath to grab him by the ankles, and Marcus Allen denied the first down.
I can tell you one thing. Ray Guy was hoping they were going to get a first down. He didn't want to come out and punt into that wind.
Boy, he really can appreciate what an advantage it is statistically for the indoor kickers to have Indianapolis as your home, or New Orleans, Houston, Minnesota. Not have to kick in these conditions.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Here's Guy. James Pruitt. Mike Kozlowski are deep inside the 15.
He'll probably try and line drive it to get as much as he can out of it.
Too much time. And for the second time today, the Raiders yards a kick compared to Roby's 44. But the net has Guy slightly ahead, meaning that while Guy's kicks have not been long, his coverage has been good. His placement has been excellent.
Oh, and he got it up. But look at it die. Look at it die against that wind.
That died like Dwight Evans' drive to left center field at Shea last night. 28 yards on that punt.
Ray Guy stepping into that one, getting good power. There's no way to get a long kick against that wind. It's just going to go up there and hang.
Miami starts at its 18. Justifiably proud, as we indicated earlier, of their past. The Raiders and Dolphins on nearly half of the Super Bowls represented by them from the AFL, AFC side. But starting so slowly this year, for the Raiders, they put it back together in part. 3 wins in a row, looking for 4 straight. But Miami, hell, they've got some work to do. Duper in front of Sam Seal at the 28-yard line. No Miami team, no team ever coached by Don Shula has started as poorly as his Miami team got out of the gate this year, 1-4.
Even though things are not going well on the field for Miami's offense, they're still getting great play from some people out there. Dwight Stevenson, for example, on that last play, absolutely stifling Bill Pickel. Watch it right here. Those hands so quick as it gets Pickel's body straight up and down and then sticks him over there and puts him in the way of Howie Long, so Howie can't get a rush either.
It looked as if he was trying to hold up Pickel and looking for somebody else to block, as any good center must. Lorenzo Hampton. Good piece of running by Hampton before McElroy, the safety man, can drag him down. A gain of 8.
You mentioned that Howie Long may be the best defensive lineman in football. I can get a lot of votes for Stevenson, for Dwight Stevenson, as the finest center in football. In fact, I think the consensus would be that number 57 in white there, and you see him again so quick with the hands and then dropping down to cut the legs out from underneath Bill Pickel, a nose man for the Raiders.
Well, in fact, Howie Long says that Stevenson is the best offensive lineman in the NFL. Doesn't say much, lets his actions speak. Second and a long 2. Hampton brought down in the backfield by Rod Martin, and there it is again, the big play by Martin, the 10-year veteran from Southern California.
The Raiders have always been a team that played pressure defense. More and more teams going to that approach. But their philosophy always is keep the heat on. Keep the heat on. Try and make the big play. Put the heat on that quarterback. Force the play behind the line as often as you can. That kind of play not uncommon for Rod Martin, although he's making fewer of those plays these days, losing a little bit of the great quickness that has marked his talent for so many years.
That forces Marino into the shotgun 3rd and long. Over the middle to Duper. Beautiful throw and catch. First down at the 47. And again, you just have to be amazed at how quickly Marino gets the ball to his receiver.
Throw the ball under pressure, hang it out there. The ball thrown just as the cut was made. And Sammy Seal, as we mentioned, starting in place of Mike Haynes, getting all the action he needs over on that side. Look how quick he had to get rid of that ball. Howie Long just streaking in there. The decision had to be made. The ball in the air in a fraction of a second.
First down at the Miami 47 with 6.5 minutes left in the 3rd quarter. The Dolphins trailing 23-7. Woody Bennett for 3 to the 50. Millen and Martin on the tackle.
Dick, looking at this game, watching this game today, not hard to ask a question. Where would Miami be right now without Marino and Marino's talents? Of course, the other question you have to ask is where would they be without Shula? I mean, either one of those names off the roster and you got yourself some big problems.
Yeah, when they drafted Marino, or the Raiders were drafting in the next pick, they took Don Mospar. What if those two had been reversed and the Raiders had Marino too? Bennett with a reception, but only a 1-yard gain as Reggie McKenzie makes the tackle. And let's check on the other action in the NFL. Our 10-minute report of scores. Philadelphia has tied the Cowboys. San Francisco trying to gain a share of first place in the NFC West. New England apparently will win, go 4-3. Cincinnati and Houston in a dogfight. Cleveland having trouble with winless Green Bay. New Orleans apparently on its way to a win. 3rd and 6. Going deep. Duper with another outstanding catch at the 5-yard line. Merlin, I didn't think he would be able to run that fast. The wind was just driving that ball over his head.
Marino was able to freeze Van McElroy in the middle of the field just long enough for Duper to get clear of Lester Hayes. And Duper with great separation speed. Look how he breaks away, able to get that ball. McElroy, who had been held just long enough by Marino's look down the middle of the field, unable to get over there to help.
First and goal at the 5.
Miami with 4 minutes and 11 seconds to go in this quarter. They've got the win for just that amount of time. They've got to get points on the board here.
Marino may be changing his play. Dan Johnson, is he in? Yes, touchdown Miami. Couple of exceptional catches by Mark Duper, setting up the 5-yard touchdown to Dan Johnson, and that gets the crowd back in the game.
One of the most dependable safeties in the league, Van McElroy, victimized in both of those situations.
Gervais to try the point after. 23-14.
You'll see McElroy sneaking to the outside. He's trying to get through traffic as the receiver blew inside. You see him stretching that ball. Johnson able to stick that ball out over the goal line. They mark it a touchdown.
2 yards in 8 plays. Marino with a couple of throws to Duper that just were examples of perfect articulation between thrower and receiver, and had to be perfect as the coverage was excellent by the Raiders. But almost must-score drive by Marino and Miami has made it a game 23-14. Reves kicks it off. Fulton Walker watches the wind blow that one right out the end zone. Raiders take over at the 20-yard line. You know, it's you don't have to love football to appreciate those two moments of Marino and Duper, and they're two great players having to make the perfect play.
Dick, I'll tell you the thing that always amazes me about the great quarterback is that he's able to think with his receivers downfield. And on a day when Marino has had all kinds of heat and has not had great success, to come back with all of that pressure, knowing he had to get it in the end zone and make the big plays.
Now it's up to the Dolphin defense. And the crowd going to make it tough on Mark Wilson. And it can be as noisy here as any outdoor stadium. You recognize that when you played with the Rams, Merlin.
Especially down in the closed end of this stadium where the Raiders are huddled up right now. And it doesn't help to pull away from the ball like that. I think you're almost better off to go ahead and run a play, even though you can't hear well. But that's not the Raider philosophy. And Tom Flores has told his quarterbacks, if you can't be heard down there, do not call a snap count. So we may be sitting here for a while before we see the ball snap. This crowd is enjoying having a chance to be. It may be a while.
Now, this is the first sellout this year in Miami, and it's a testimony to the spirit of these fans in South Florida. Despite the rain and wind, most of them have shown up for the game. Don Shula, meanwhile, says, hey, let us get a play underway. Let's not lose the momentum we have.
Well, the linemen have taped the outside ear of their helmets to try and let them hear the quarterback's count.
The give is to Marcus Allen. 3 yards. T.J. Turner, the rookie from Houston.
And Dick, something very important here. 3 minutes and 35 seconds on the clock. Now the Raiders know if they can start a drive and eat that clock, they take the wind away from Marino. They really can make it difficult for him to come back in that fourth quarter. Right now they're thinking a couple of first downs. This is not the end of an ordinary third quarter.
3 minutes 13 seconds left in this third period. Allen again, and Jackie Shipp gets there first, number 50. He's played a big game, has Shipp. And it'll be third down and about 3.5 with exactly 3 minutes showing on the clock.
Charlie Hanna a little slow getting up off the ground. Right guard in there for that Raider offensive line. That line, by the way, doing such a fine job in there today. Big Bruce Davis, Charlie Hanna, Mo Spar, Mickey Marvin, Lawrence.
Allen a yard away from the century mark and only 6 yards away from 5,000 in his young but brilliant career. Big play. And a big catch by Todd Christensen. And a first down at the 35-yard line with Betters pressuring Wilson. 9 yards and the first down.
Todd Christensen working man-to-man, again working against the wind. Renee Thompson, number 24, on top of him. I think actually had a hold of him before that ball arrived, but Todd able to pull it in.
Doug Betters, the best pass rusher in the last several years for the Dolphins, fighting through the block to try to hurry Wilson.
That was a good throw by Mark Wilson with heat on him.
1:45 left in the quarter. Allen dropped for a loss. Mark Brown. Now this is the best linebacker play that Don Shula has had for a while.
Of course, their best linebacker, Hugh Green, out for the year with a shattered kneecap, and that really hurt this defense. But watch the penetration by Brown here. And Marcus Allen, who's used to being able to switch around and make that reversal, keep his balance, and balance has been the key to his success. just doesn't have it. Again, that bad ankle kept him, I think, from maybe being able to recover there.
2nd and 15. Hawkins, and Offerdahl was able to traverse almost the entire width of the line to get over and get a hand on him and drag him down. We pause briefly for station identification from Miami. This is the NBC television network.
This is WNBC TV, New York.
Dick, I think even if the Raiders can't get a first down here, they're going to get a change of the wind. We're 31 seconds on the clock. And boy, I'll tell you, to be able to kick with the wind as opposed to against it, a giant advantage today. They've gotten accomplished one of the things that they wanted to do.
Unless it's an incomplete pass. Now it's down to 18 seconds, 3rd and 10. Wilson unable to make the completion, and with 10 seconds left, Guy will have to punt into the wind.
Boy, what a costly call. If they run that football and run that 10 seconds off the clock, you've got a switch of winds with him. Now he's going to kick it into that howling breeze.
Of course, on the other hand, they're figuring that with a pass they can pick up the first down. Maybe that's what Flores and Wilson are talking about, although the call comes from the sidelines.
Quarterbacks do not call the plays for either of these teams. They're really called by Flores over there, but I've got to believe in retrospect, and it's easy to second guess from here, that's one they may question themselves.
10 men on the line of scrimmage for Miami, with Pruitt back at his 28. It's very short again. Pruitt at the 32. The long-legged rookie is to the 43. He's exciting. He played college ball. Whoops. Little extracurricular. Andy Hendel, number 90 of the Dolphins, in the thick of it at the end of the 3rd quarter. End of 3 periods at the Orange Bowl. A score 23-14. Back after these words from your local stations. Bowl. The Raiders lead by 9, but a shift in momentum to the hometown Dolphins. Simply, the Raiders win. It's 4 in a row. They're right back in the thick of the playoff picture, 4-3. If the Dolphins lose, they go 2-5. The Dolphins need to win just to get it 3-4. They take over at their 43-yard line into the wind. And that one just thrown up for grabs, and Sam Seal, tackled by Mark Duper, has it at the 27-yard line as Marino into that win overshoots Duper. Lyndon King applying pressure on the passer and forced the mistake.
Trying to power that ball into the wind, overthrew it, got it over his receiver, but again, there's great heat. Look at Howie Long getting away from Stevenson inside, and the blitz from the outside. I believe that was Rod Martin. He was forced to throw that ball before he was ready.
You see Long and Lyndon King,
Lyndon
number
King.
52.
Ooh, burning in from the outside.
Today's game is brought to you by Mazda Cars and Trucks. The more you look, the more you like Mazda value. By Liberty Mutual. America believes in Liberty Mutual Insurance. And by Budweiser. Beechwood aged for that clean, crisp taste. This Bud's for you.
A spirit squashing interception by the Raiders on the first play of the 4th quarter. And Los Angeles has it at the Raider 27, leading by 9. Frank Hawkins. George Little, number 99, making the tackle.
Let's go back to that last play. We talked about Marino trying to do too much. He feels the heat from Lyndon King. He still tries to get that pass off. He's hit just as he releases that football. I think that caused the overthrow as much as anything else. But I think the refusal to be sacked, and it's something that's marked Marino's career, got him in trouble there. It goes for the turnover, and the Raiders have the football on the 30-yard line.
Bob Brzezinski using all of his 6'4" to get up and one-hand the ball and almost pull it in for the interception. Christensen was open behind him.
You know, we haven't talked a lot about Mark Wilson's injury today. but he's certainly responsible for a lot of those 236 yards they got in the first half. And you can see how many yards the Dolphins have been able to accumulate here in the second half. But I think, again, the dominance of the wind in the game, and the Raiders now have the wind at their backs.
Big play for the Miami defense with 14 minutes left in the game. And Wilson has to eat it at the 30. Here comes the punting team. And if Ray Guy can possibly find a smile on this windy afternoon in Miami, it's now. He finally gets the wind at his back. It has not been a productive team, the Raiders, in the second half, particularly the fourth quarter. Remember last week, Al Davis put his head in the booth after the game, and he said, we can't score in the second half. He was upset by that note.
Well, they've been protecting leads in the last couple of weeks. They're doing that in here again today, and you don't want to get too conservative. Not against Marino.
Guy hammers this one
over his head. That may go all the way down.
Fumbles. The Raiders have it.
Touchdown.
No, it's not a touchdown. He can't advance
Can't advance it. That's right.
But they have it at the 3-yard line. Stephon Adams, number 44, as the wind forces the mistake.
Don Shula will not allow Pruitt to catch those ordinarily if he thinks they're going to come down in that critical area where tough decisions need to be made. He'll put Nat Moore with his experience in the game, but he couldn't believe that Guy would be able to get this one all the way over the top of the head of Pruitt. Now James Pruitt goes back and makes a bad choice here. Says, I've got to pick it up, and then lifts his eyes up at the last second. That ball snatched up by Stephon Adams, but as you mentioned, Dick, can't advance the ball. It goes back to the 3-yard line, but what a big turnover on special teams. What a big play for the Raiders.
Well, Guy's first 3 punts totaled 68 yards. He got the wind at his back. He got 68 on that one, his longest of the year. And now 1st and goal at the 2, and the Raiders can all but put it away here. Marcus Allen's got the touchdown, his 3rd of the game.
There's a brooding silence here in the Orange Bowl. Fans stunned by that quick turnaround. Watch Marcus again. Look at the job by the Raider offensive line. They've got everyone on the ground, and Marcus becomes a hurdler over the top and into the end zone.
Marcus Allen with his 3rd touchdown, 2nd on the ground. Barr's point after try. Lines it through. And so pulling back into the game at 23-14. This fourth quarter is only, well, less than 2 minutes old, and 2 mistakes by Miami, an interception and a fumble recovered by the Raiders. -7 in turnover table going into the game, now a -11. The Raiders, who are a -6 now, only a -2.
Hard to make good decisions when you're this far down.
30-14, the Raiders lead. 13 minutes remain. Davenport will take it out of his own end zone. And a good return to the 36-yard line before Stephon Adams, the man who just recovered that fumble by Pruitt on the punt, makes the tackle.
Let's go back, and we talked about Guy's difficulties. He knows right now that they've got something big going. You don't blame him for being happy, but the special teams turned right around and gave Miami excellent field position on a very deep kick.
That return of about 37 yards was the longest return of a kickoff by Miami this year. Marino into the wind, and a defense that knows he has to pass. So he stays on the ground to Hampton for a gain of 4.
Fans saying that's not the way we're going to get back into this ball game.
Obviously they call 2 plays, though, knowing that time is of essence, and if they're going to run it, they're going to go right back to the 2nd down call, which is the pass. And Hardy not there. Stacy Turan on the coverage, and Marino had to get rid of it. as pressure from linebacker Lyndon King, who played 8 years with the San Diego Chargers. One of his more famous moments came off the football field when he became the celebrity champion of the cow chip throwing title, the Meadow Muffin champion. 203 feet 4 inches he tossed a cow chip. Now that is really
that's a toss. Now he's getting some playing time today because of Townsend's suspension. He's been used along with Mitch Willis in that ball game today to spell some of the linemen on the field. They've got Elvis Franks in there right now.
3rd and 6.
Offsides.
Clayton surrounded at the 37 of Los Angeles. Now we'll check the penalty. The Raiders were offside. Were they drawn offside?
I don't believe they were. I think the pass is going to hold up, Dick. And that's a big play for Marino into that wind. As often happens when you're offsides that way, everything kind of stops. And a smart offense keeps it going.
Offsides, 99 defense, 20s decline, first down.
Well, the big upset of the day, the Vikings with less than 4 minutes left in the 3rd period, leading 23-0, trying to end the Bears' unbeaten hopes. New England on a roll at Pittsburgh. Cincinnati ahead, and Cleveland falls behind in the AFC Central. Green Bay leads by 3. Woody Bennett and Reggie McKenzie bumps him out of bounds after an 11-yard gain to the 27.
Dick, that offsides penalty just moments ago, only the 3rd of the day for the Raiders for 15 yards. Miami only 1 penalty all day long for 5 yards. This has been a very penalty-free game.
No major fouls in 3/4 of this game.
Did you see the 2 interceptions along with the 2 touchdowns? We talked about that change in the proportions for Marino. It continues today. Has not been able to throw the bombs without making the mistakes. Calling the audible, making the sign out to his receivers so they know what the play is.
Johnson unable to come up with it. A flag is thrown by one of the officials deep downfield. Often that will be against the tight end. Apparently not, according to Miami's reaction. Might be a hold. So the Raiders guilty of the hold. That's 5 yards and a first down, and stops the clock with 11:51 left.
Very often a quarterback.
Holding, number 30 defense, first down.
Stacy Turan ticketed for the holding call. A quarterback like Marino can look at the way a defense lines up and very often can read the blitz. I think that's what happened on that play. He knew they were coming after him, called the audible, was able to get enough time to get that ball on target to his big tight end.
Raiders leading 30-14, 4th quarter. Just under 12 minutes remaining. Marino, Bruce Hardy stopped at the 15 of the Raiders, a gain of about 7. Jeff Barnes and Stacy Turan on the tackle.
I am impressed with Marino's ability to throw that ball against that wind. He is rifling the ball, keeping it low. He has a strong arm, and he's using that arm power to compensate for that wind. But you notice he's not going deep with those passes. He's keeping them relatively short.
Clock ticking at 11:20. See the big 2nd quarter for the Raiders. 4 turnovers to none favoring the Raiders. That's the big statistic, as well as their ability to run the football so effectively first half. Lorenzo Hampton running room, and he's to the 5-yard line, 1st and goal. Good call by the Dolphins.
Tendency to relax sometimes when you get a big lead on the board. You can't relax against these Dolphins. They still can hurt you offensively. And that young man is playing better and better as he gets into the system. Lorenzo Hampton, good power runner, not afraid to block. Doesn't get as many chances as he should because Miami has been so behind so much this year. They're throwing a very heavy percentage. More than 70% of the time they've got the ball in the air as opposed to on the ground.
Woody Bennett threw a big block for Hampton that last play. Davenport breaking tackles to the 2-yard line. He left 4 Raider men on the ground as he just charged ahead, taking himself out of a loss into a 4-yard gain.
Another battle going on downfield. Dwight Stevenson down there pushing and shoving. Quickly you look at that play as they get it to Lorenzo Hampton, but watch him as he breaks away from the tackle to the inside. Ron Davenport, nice job of running. You saw Lorenzo Hampton on the other side. Those 2 young backs both demonstrating good leg strength on the last 2 plays.
Hampton touchdown. His 5th touchdown rushing this year. He has all 5 of Miami's scores on the ground.
Well, so many of Miami's scores this year have come on quick strikes from Marino. They've got to be pleased to be able to take the ball under adverse circumstances and drive it down the field, mixing the run with the pass and scoring on the ground with Hampton.
Reveiz adds the extra point. It took the Dolphins 3 minutes and 45 seconds to score a 64-yard drive. It's now 30-21. 4 in a row, lead by 9 points with 9 minutes and 25 seconds left here at the Orange Bowl. Fuad Reveiz tees it up, anticipating the wind will knock down his kickoff. Fulton Walker and Stephon Adams have moved up to the 10-yard line. Watch how that wind will knock it down. Walker on the sidelines lets it go out of bounds, and Reveiz now will have to kick from the 30-yard line. That'll give us a chance to check on the other scores. Minnesota, boy, they must be celebrating up in the land of the Vikings. Dallas leads now at Philadelphia in the 4th. San Francisco trying to get a share of first place at Atlanta, leads by 7. Cincinnati winning by 10. Washington's lead cut to 2 touchdowns. Green Bay trying to upset Cleveland at home. Buffalo looking for its 2nd win against Indianapolis. New Orleans up by 24 against the Bucks.
Updated scores, 3rd quarter. Dallas 14, Philadelphia 7. 4th quarter, San Francisco 10, Atlanta 3.
Yeah, well, Mark Wilson gets
Don Strock on the other sideline. 2 of the very best backup quarterbacks along with Steve Grogan in all of football.
A Reveiz from the 30.
Oh, real short. You might want a fair catch that one.
Fulton Walker to the 31-yard line. Joe Carter was there almost at the same time the ball arrived. This telecast presented by authority of the National Football League is intended for the private use of our audience. Any rebroadcast or other use of this telecast without the express written consent of the Miami Dolphins and the National Football League is prohibited.
The wind blowing like it is today would be an opportunity to use that little short kick. That's an onside kick, but one that goes up into the air and just kind of hangs there.
Just drop it over that front line. The Raiders now with 9 minutes left will try to organize an attack that'll chew up time. Fake to McCallum. And a throw to McCallum, complete for a gain of about 6 to the 37-yard line. Offerdahl with a tackle.
McCallum is the man that Wilson faked to on this play. Gives him a little fake right here, and he's standing right in the middle. He's the outlet man. I don't think he's the initial receiver. And even though the heat is on, Jackie Shipp coming very quickly on top of 3 linebackers actually getting there. That ball zipped to the inside. Wilson did a good job of throwing that ball.
It's a good first down play. A gain of 7, so it's 2nd and 3. McCallum has the first down and more out to the 45, 46-yard line.
McCallum is a young player, a rookie, getting a lot of help from Frank Hawkins. You see Hawkins talking to him right there, really giving him a lot of help. And watch Hawkins blocking for McCallum, leading him up into the hole, staying in there. That's interesting. You want to hear an interesting piece of conversation from these two youngsters. Frank Hawkins talking and pulling him. He said, Knapp, just stay behind me. This was last week. I'm going to run where there's not a big pile, and after I make my block, you go where you want.
Underneath to Christensen, catches at the 50 and lurches forward to the Miami 47.
He said, bring it up a little bit. Come on, Todd. You got that one anyway. I'll tell you, Mark Wilson has done a good job after being out with that injury for a week, nursing still a sore thumb. You'll see he's got tape on it. In fact, they've got a piece of foam strapped into that hand to help him take the shock of the snap. You see the tape on the right hand as he reaches out. He's having trouble again with the noise factor.
He's also letting that 30-second clock consume more time. It's down to 7 minutes on the game clock. McCallum. And he twists for a first down. 5 more yards for McCallum. He's over 50 yards rushing today.
Offerdahl, the man at the bottom of the stack for Miami, but right now the Raiders really have their first drive of the day going, and it comes at a critical time for them. They know if they can eat that clock, take it off, maybe get some more points on the board, they can win this game.
This is the best sustained drive of the second half after they dominated play in just this manner by controlling the football the first half.
Even though it's tough to get recognition on a team that's losing, and we see a penalty there. I got to believe that Offerdahl is far and away the best candidate for Rookie of the Year that I've seen all year.
Defensively, at least.
Right guard, 65-62. First down.
Mickey Marvin, guilty of the 5 yards.
Wow.
The Bears have broken the shutout bid of the Vikings. New England pounding on Pittsburgh. Cincinnati's lead cut to 3, while Cleveland is still down by 3. Here it's 30-21. The Raiders with the ball and the lead. 1st and 15 at the Miami 48. And the draw to McCallum. Read well by George Little. And the defensive end from Iowa, who replaced Kim Bocamper, makes a solid tackle.
You can almost anticipate that call on the sideline. The Raiders concerned as much as anything here at not turning the ball over. This is a high percentage play. Give it to a back, get it locked into his arms, and in what appeared to be an obvious situation, there should be some room, but Miami anticipating that, I think, read it well, and Little made a good play.
In comes Marcus Allen for Napoleon McCallum.
I think you'll see Allen on the receiving end of a pass here.
He is flanked right. Deep to Hester. He's behind the defense and doesn't make the catch. It is not an interception. Bud Brown came up with a ball, and I don't know what all that extra business is about.
Well, Marcus didn't know if it was a fumble or not, and he's doing what he can to get the man out of bounds, and Bud Brown thought that Marcus was attacking him. Now, that's just a miscommunication. Two guys doing what they thought they had to do. That's not dirty football. Marcus didn't know where. He thought Bud had the ball. Bud Brown had the ball, going to push him out of bounds, and Bud thought Marcus was attacking him.
In fact, you were right. Bud had the Brown football.
He did.
So it all for naught. The ball had hit the ground, and thus no interception for Brown.
Here's the last part of that play, and Marcus just trying to push him out of bounds at this point, and Brown is saying, what the hell are you doing? The play's dead, but I don't think Marcus heard the whistle.
You wonder why there wasn't a penalty for Marcus grabbing the face mask, however.
I think he had his hand up inside. I don't think it was on the mask.
Now back to the live action. It's 3rd and 15. Big play, Wilson. Will take the yardage to the 43 and bring up 4th down. So that was safety first. Wilson did not want to gamble on the interception.
Well, I think one of the things that has started to help Mark Wilson, and there's no question in my mind he's a better quarterback this year than he was last year. I think he's more confident, but I think the Raiders have stopped asking him to do some of the things that he couldn't do, have allowed him really to accept a little bit less of a role in the offense. This is not a quarterback intensive offense as compared to Miami's offense, for example, but it has allowed him more success and a chance to really contribute.
Meanwhile, the Raiders have been very wise in the way they've spent time. Here they're taking their time. The 30-second clock is down to 2. They might even take the layup game. No, right at the 1-second mark. And Guy gets it away. Nat Moore, not Pruitt, by the way, was back to receive. As you indicated earlier, that's Don Shula's plan under these situations. But Pruitt, they didn't figure that Guy would kick it that long before. So just under 4 minutes remain. Miami needs 2 scores. Clock, less than 4 minutes left, and the wind here in the 4th quarter, trailing by 9. He starts from the 20-yard line. Underneath, deflected, incomplete. Bill Pickel, big on the nose, 6 feet 5 inches tall. A 4-year man from Rutgers, able to knock that one down.
Unusual stature. In fact, both nose tackles, Bob Baumhauer and Bill Pickel, unusually tall and lanky for that nose tackle position. Baumhauer at about 6'5" himself, and that does give them some disadvantages in terms of leverage, but certainly in terms of their ability to reach up and get those arms in front of the passer, it helps.
Sometimes you wonder how those quarterbacks even see a receiver with all that.
Then we got 2 big quarterbacks, a 6'4" and 6'6" incher today.
Marino planning, throwing, incomplete. Lester Hayes covering Mark Clayton.
Clayton throws Marino, or Clayton throws Lester Hayes to the ground. Now Lester is making contact all the way down with Clayton here. Now watch as Clayton goes inside, Lester turns with him, and then does another turn, and then gets a little push right there. Has got his hands on him, and I think that's what made Clayton mad. Clayton just turned around and threw him on the ground.
Hayes not upset because he knows that he got away with a little bit extra.
Yes, did he ever. He's a cagey one. I'll tell you, he spends a lot of time looking at the film, knows what those receivers want to do to him, and very often is there ahead of them.
He says, I studied Don Shula. I know what he's going to do sometimes. Marino downfield, incomplete. Intended for Clayton, but there again, Marino trying to gauge as to how much the wind would take out of that throw, and it shows you how strong his arm is.
You said it well, and it was the third of the enemies that shut him down here at Breeze. The clock still working against them here. Got to wonder if maybe there isn't a chance here that Shula might gamble with a trick on his punt team.
Well, the big play of this game becomes the muffed punt by Pruitt that gave the Raiders the easy touchdown. Otherwise, we'd be looking at a 23-21 game.
Ooh.
Into the wind, and he hits a beauty.
He hit that ball.
That is an incredible kick against the wind of Fulton Walker. Fair catch down at the Raider 32-yard line. 49 yards into the wind by Roby. You bet he's got a great leg.
Gotta believe that that wind is circling a little bit.
We have some outstanding NFL action on tap for you next Sunday on NBC. Let's look at the lineup. In our first game of the doubleheader, Chargers will be at Philadelphia, New England, Buffalo, Miami visits Indianapolis, and the Raiders will be at the Astrodome against the Oilers. Also Cleveland at Minnesota and Cincinnati at Pittsburgh. And then Merlin and I will be at Mile High Stadium. Oh, always struggle, Seattle and Denver. Broncos playing the Jets tomorrow night in New York. Napoleon McCallum protecting the football as he picks up good yardage on first down, and the clock running. 3:24, 3:23, and on it goes. Later tonight, game 2 of the '86 Fall Classic from Shea Stadium in New York, And it's the kind of pitching matchup you dream about mid-year, and it materializes tonight, apparently, as Roger Clemens of the Boston Red Sox goes against Dr. K. Dwight Gooden of the New York Mets. Now warming up at 8 o'clock from New York. Raiders in command, 30-21. And McCallum over the top, close to a first down. He'll be about a half-yard shy, I believe.
Now that's an unusual matchup. Todd Christensen pushing and shoving down there. Not very often you see him in any kind of altercation.
They'll mark the ball at about the 41-yard line.
You know, we don't have an earned run, unearned run category for football, but in this second half, certainly the points on the board for the Raiders are in that unearned category. They have had trouble scoring in the second half.
The Dolphins will call time with 2:34 showing on the clock. That's a good point, Merlin. That indeed the 2-yard touchdown drive after the muff punt by James Pruitt being 7 unearned points in essence.
We talked about what a big impact on this game that wind was going to have, and this is probably the biggest play. There are many plays influenced by the wind, but Pruitt, anticipating a kick, a long kick, not this long, however, makes a good choice there and then makes a bad choice. Tries to pick that ball up on the run, touches it. If he doesn't touch that ball, there's no turnover. He had a couple of big muffs early in the year, Dick. He blew a couple early in the year, and I'm sure going through his mind right now, he's probably seeing that football fly over his head again.
Well, he's also had some good returns. He had a 71-yard touchdown return against the Colts, and in fact leads the NFL in punt return average 15.4. But he has made mistakes as well. It's, you know, it's a small world, this game of football. While he played at Cal State Fullerton, his quarterback was Damon Allen, as in Marcus Allen's brother. And Damon now quarterbacking up in the CFL at Edmonton. He said Marcus used to come to the games, and Marcus Allen was his favorite player as he grew up, although the age difference not that great.
Now, Pruitt was in Shula's doghouse after their opener down in San Diego, because it was in that game that he muffed several punts that were big plays against the Chargers in that loss.
First down here, and you can call for the fat lady. Ooh. And McCallum has about 5 yards out to the 46 before Offerdahl can stop him, and the clock will continue to run. Look at the rushing yardage. It's unusual in today's game for any team to rush for over 200 yards.
Now, a lot of credit to the men running the ball the majority of the time. McCallum certainly won. Marcus Allen around that 100-yard range. Frank Hawkins on that last play, and it's one of the reasons they're getting that yardage. Absolutely dumped Bud Brown right on his back.
Now, Merlin, I have the feeling as we're winding this down that we haven't paid proper tribute to this Raider defense. We did announce at the start that they're second only to the Giants as the best total defensive team in the NFL. But they literally deny you the run. Last week, the longest run by Seattle was 8 yards by Kurt Warner. The Dolphins today had a 17-yard run by Nathan, but that was at the end of the half when they were giving the run.
They literally did give them that in exchange for time off of the clock. Bob Zeman, the defensive coordinator over on that far sideline, has to be extremely pleased. You see his back there as he's talking to one of the officials. Extremely pleased with the play of his defense. I say defensive coordinator. The Raiders don't give that title, but Zeman is the man who does help to call the defenses. You see him standing there with a, well, I don't blame him. Put a smile on it this time in the ball game.
Former defensive back with the Chargers.
On the other side of the field, I think it's a much different story and a much different situation for Chuck Studley. When things are going badly, the man at the helm of the ship has to take a lot of heat, and that's the way it is for Chuck Studley and his defense right now.
Well, getting ready for Halloween, and the Raider fans, few as the number may be here in Miami, have reason to celebrate. 2:15 left in the game, and Miami has exercised its second timeout. Hawkins has Miami tackling the football will give up some yardage, and it'll click now down to the 2-minute mark, I believe. Miami will not use its third timeout in this spot. Well, Marcus Allen had a big first half. Napoleon McCallum has chipped in with 60 yards of his own. Big running day for the Raiders, who apparently are going to win their 4th in a row. And windy as we started play today, and that became part of the story. The rain has disappeared. The wind stayed. It was a factor.
Well, both quarterbacks said they didn't really mind the rain as much as they did the wind, and we've seen how the wind has affected the game. It's made some of the biggest plays, certainly warped this game back and forth for both teams.
You know, it's part of the charm of the game of football. You start in the summer months where it's hot and humid, 100 degrees. At the end of the year, you're playing in snow and frozen weather. You get the wind, you get the rain. Unlike any other sport, perhaps, at least popular in the United States, football has to accommodate itself, your talent, to unpredictable conditions.
Certainly does, and in Miami they have that reverse warm weather advantage. As it gets hot late in the year, teams come down here and very often wilt. I think the Raiders benefited today from this cool day. In particular, in their defensive line, without Townsend, they were able to keep some people fresh in there. They wouldn't have been able to do that on a hot day.
Yeah, they were even saying, boy, they have to wear those black jerseys. It's hot and humid. That's going to hurt the Raiders. Well, the black jerseys were rather comfortable today, and a day around 70 degrees, not much humidity. And a little extra push and shove to give us a time to remind you the Most Valuable Player Award is up, and it's sponsored by Budweiser, and it belongs today to Marcus Allen of the Los Angeles Raiders. Came back from injury. Some thought he wouldn't even play today, and he's compiled well over 100 yards and 3 touchdowns. Budweiser will make a contribution to the United Way on behalf of all the MVPs selected in today's games around the NFL.
And maybe the best part of his performance today is he didn't re-injure that ankle.
Napoleon McCallum, who has been an excellent backup for him today. He has 68 yards rushing, is in the game now. He gets the call. Ooh. And he gets the hit. Offerdahl showing you why he is picking up considerable popularity with coaches and fans not opposing ball carriers around the league.
One of the reasons that Chuck Studley's defense is not shutting people down is that they don't have enough horses. They do have a linebacker there.
1 minute to go. Well, he's been in the outhouse and the penthouse, against the wind and now with the wind here in the second half, the 4th quarter, and gray guy in 4th and 1. A dying quail that is going to fall at the 8-yard line. So Miami will begin at its 8-yard line. Another kick not returned by Ray Guy, and his net punting has been outstanding this year despite the fact his average is down. Dan Marino on the field.
37 yards.
And a final check of the scores. Before we go to NFL 86, they'll have scores and highlights for you, so stay tuned. Lots of big numbers today in the NFL. St. Louis putting a scare on the Redskins in the 4th quarter. Green Bay trying to pull the upset at Cleveland. Here in a game rated basically even, the Raiders, and you could make a case if you're a Raider fan for being 7-0. They lost by 2 to Denver, lost by 4 to Washington, lost by 5 to the Giants, and now won apparently at 4 in a row.
Lester Hayes and Sammy Seal, the 2 cornerbacks, about 20 yards deep, and there's the hook and ladder, a Shula gimmick that is not going anywhere because the Raiders are going to give you yardage, but they're not going to give you the big play.
And Miami does not have a timeout left. So this is just an exercise in trying to change the score cosmetically. Raiders have been 40 yards downfield defensively. Nathan has a not quite a first down, 9 yards on the play. Jerry Robinson with a tackle.
8 yards.
For a touchdown, and while it comes at the final gun, does not change the outcome. It gives you evidence of why sooner or later that play is going to work when it does win a game, as A collision, and Clayton, the trailer, after Pruitt went up for the ball, gets the gift score to make it 30-27.
The ball is just hung up in the air. Van McElroy goes up to intercept it right there. Bounces off his shoulders right into the hands of an alert Mark Clayton, who carried it into the end zone. And oh, Dick, what a different game we would have if that ball had not been fumbled by Pruitt. And of course, the Raiders would have been playing this drive differently too. But this has turned around very quickly, and the Miami Dolphins are saying, oh, if only we had a few more minutes on that clock.
It'll be a very difficult game, as most defeats are, but maybe more than the ordinary loss for Don Shula and his Dolphins to assimilate, because there's so many ways you can second guess yourself in your play.
And embarrassing for a defense too. A Raider defense that has been so dominant, now embarrassed in the last seconds by that play, I'm sure.
So that is the final play of the game. Nope, it isn't. There are flags down. It does not end at 30-28, apparently.
Well, I don't think you can get more than a single point out of it.
I don't think so either, unless you want to penalize them for next year.
12 men on defense. Point is good.
So that is the end of the game on a most unusual 68-yard touchdown from Marino, who got the ricochet to Clayton for the score. It's 4 straight now for the Raiders. They're 4-3. Miami falls to 2-5. And Tom Flores' Raiders go home to the West Coast with a 30-28 win. And the Raider domination of the Dolphins continues.